Hallelujah, and thank you, Jesus. It's around that time right here on KAZ Radio where I have one of my most favorite shows, The Marital Toolbox, with Pastor Octavia Lucas. Take it away, Pastor.
Hey, guys. Welcome to the Marital Toolbox, where I am Pastor Octavia Lucas. And here is my my new co host, Barbara Moss, a sister friend of mine,
Hello.
who I have come to love and adore. Hey, Barbara.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Doc. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you.
Yes. And so here on the Marital Toolbox, we talk about all things relationship, marriages, single, if you're thinking about being married, or, just all those different relationship tips and topics. A lot of it can be spiritual based, so that can be a foundation of it, or sometimes it comes from our wisdom, our knowledge, our understanding, and sometimes from our experiences. And so, as I often say on this live, what may works for me may not work for you, but you take what is said on here, whatever tool that you see fit out of the toolbox that will work to help you in any relationship situations that you're having or that you think you might come across. You are more than welcome to use it. Okay. And also, I also say too, do more research. Okay. So I know we're going to give advice and our opinions and different things like that, but it is up to you to also do the homework and do the research yourself, because you know what you want. Number one, you know what God is saying to you. You know how he's leading you and directing you, and you know your heart's desires and different things like that. So a lot of times that will take you doing the homework so you can take the necessary steps to get the expected outcome that you are looking for. So, but anyway, we are going to dive right into this. And the topic tonight, of course, the subject matter is always relationship, but the topic tonight is the art of communication, which came from a video. I'm going to let her explain it, and then we're going to go from there. Barbara.
So, this video that I shared with Dr. Octavia, it dealt with communication and expectations when it comes to being in a relationship, being married. There's a lot of questions that men and women both have, and we come from an era of we learned as we went, but we're here to share uh, the different aspects of communicating. Hindsight 2020, I know so much more about communication today than I did 30 plus years ago when I was first into my relationship and getting married. So, communication is the key. We've got to open up our hearts, open up our minds, and open up our mouths. But the first thing that comes with communication is listening. And we often listen to respond. And one of the breakdowns in communication is that we're listening to respond and not listening to get an understanding of where our partner is coming from. So we'll talk about the expectations, what we expect out of our marriage, what we expect out of our relationship. So, Doc, take it away.
Yes. So I seen she sent me two videos. And so from that, collectively, like she said, it was talking about communication. And we know communication is our basic communication is our shared experiences, our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings, and definitely our opinions that we just pretty much bounce off each other. And give feedback to each other. But what the video was also Wells talking about, which was great video she sent me, it was talking about effective communication too. So that's kind of different from what regular communication is. So effective communication is being able to convey a message to the other person where the message delivered, received, and understood successfully. And so in effective communication, you're seeking to walk away with some type of understanding. You know what I'm saying? Regular communication, I mean, you're seeking the same thing, but effective communication is leaving, from the table with an understanding. It can be with an understanding, it can be with a plan, it can be with a vision, it can be whatever, it is, but whatever the message that was intended um, to be relayed or conveyed in that communication, you want to make sure that you and that person are walking away, you have that, you have totally understand that. And so it was another thing that that was spoken about in that too. I was getting ready to call you by your nickname, but I can't call you by your nickname. But that other part, Barbara, that I want you to talk about, it also talked about unrealistic expectations. So if you can pretty much bounce off of that, speak on that unrealistic expectation.
Right. So when we talk about expectations, we're talking about um, achieving an ultimate goal. And those expectations that we put on ourselves and that we put on our partners, the unrealistic ones, are the ones that break down the marriage, because without communicating, we're going into this marriage and we're expecting something from our spouse, from our partner, from our significant other, that they cannot achieve. And sometimes if we let them know what we're expecting, our level is so high because of what society has placed on us, that it makes that person feel overwhelmed, and they don't know if they're going to be able to meet those expectations because they're so high. So it's really important that we go into our relationships, even in collecting the data,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's where we begin. Is we collect data to get to know a person, to see if we're
Yes.
going to take it to the next level, which is going to lead to another level, which ultimately we want to lead into that covenant marriage, right?
Right.
So the beginning of the video is started out with the woman saying that there were some expectations on from her husband,
Hmm.
that they were to have relations 5 days a week, or 5 times in a week, where she was good with two. But if you go into this and you don't know what he's expecting and you don't know what she's expecting, one person might be getting satisfied and the other person's not getting satisfied. And that breaks down the marriage, that breaks down
Right.
the communication.
Right. Right.
So it's really, really important that even at that beginning stage, when I'm just getting ready to know you, getting to know the ins and outs about you, because, even if you're in something with somebody for 10, 15 years, you still don't know everything about that person. But if we are open to that communication and we're open to sharing our expectations. What does my life look like? What does my life with you look like? What
Right.
is it that I long for in the future? Because those expectations aren't just for right now. We're ultimately setting those expectations because we want a certain end to come to us.
Right.
Through this relationship. So those unrealistic expectations, baby, I want you 5 days a week, or 2 times a day, 5 days a week, and she's good with two, or I expect you to go to work and come home and cook and clean and this and that. Communication is the key. And
Yeah.
if we're not communicating, we don't know what the other person's feeling, which leads to people shutting down, which leads to people becoming angry and then retreating, So communication is the key to um, a happy and satisfied marriage. Uh,
Yeah.
and expressing ourselves. And it's not easy. And I can tell you that from experience because I didn't know how to communicate my wants and my needs. I know that I know what I wanted, but to share that with my partner, my spouse, it wasn't as easy because a lot of times we come from two totally different worlds and we're trying to make one whole new universe for us. And when you come from brokenness and you don't know how to communicate, how do you share those expectations with someone? You know, so we start at
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah.
We start in the collecting data stage and being free and honest with ourselves to be able to not set someone up for failure.
Yes. 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 And I like all of that, what you said, definitely with unrealistic expectations. And one of the things that you was saying, when you have one person expecting something and the other person is not expecting that, that can, break down in communication. Like you said, it breaks down in communication, and it could be part of because it's a lack of communication. You
Right,
understand what I'm saying? So these are things as far as what was talked about in the video, as far as him wanting it 5 days and her wanting it these many days. That's where that effective communication comes out, where it becomes you know understanding. Let's understand this, because guess what, somewhere, somehow, you have to meet in the middle somewhere. You understand what I'm
exactly.
saying? Because you got,
Compromise.
yes, you got a person that's high strung and you got a person that's not high strung. So we got to somehow, and it's only 7 days out of a week.
Right.
So he's 5 and you might
Only
be 2.
24 hours in a day.
Right. So you gotta, so you gotta meet somewhere in the middle, so it can be a balance and it can be a success. Like you said, it's something that your effective communication is something you're working towards, that outcome is going to be successful. Right.
Yes,
And so we don't want to tear down the relationship or the marriage, because we can't come to a compromise or something. And compromising is not necessarily settling, and
right.
compromising. Let's use that word settling, because sometimes we look at the word compromise, it's like, oh my God, do we gotta compromise? Why we gotta compromise? Well, it's not, it don't have to be in a negative situation, but in cases like that, in that video where he's 5 times and she's 2, there has to be some type of compromise. So either one person is going to have to tone it down, or the other person is going to have to tone it up. But you have to find some type of
Happy
middle
medium.
medium where both persons can be satisfied. And what I got here was, what I written down is, I said, what is unrealistic expectations? I put asking for something from a person that they cannot give, or at that time give, or may not be mature enough to give or handle. So in other words, what I'm saying is, unrealistic expectation may not necessarily be an unrealistic expectation. Sometimes it's just unrealistic, like you said, at that moment. It
Right,
can't be accomplished at that moment. It can't be achieved at that time. It may be something seasonal. It may be something short term. It may be something long term, a long term goal or something like that. So it doesn't mean that the unrealistic expectation is off the board, but maybe that person is not in a place to handle it. Maybe that person's maturity level is not there to wing it or whatever, but it's not something that cannot be accomplished or achieved all the time. But then there are some unrealistic expectations where you're asking something from a person that they just cannot give. And you
right,
see that they just cannot give. They don't have the capacity. They
right,
have not. Maybe lessons in life have not given them the full capacity, or maybe it can come from the home. It can be parents, something they was not groomed to do, something they was not taught to do. It's something that they just may not just have the capacity. They can be in a relationship but may not necessarily have the capacity to love right then and there. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? Or
Right.
the capacity to give you, or give you half of their heart, but not their whole heart. They just don't have the capacity. So we have to understand that too, in a relationship. And so
Right.
going back to the communication, the effective communication part, one of the things that I did wrote down when I was examining that video, was personal barriers, when it comes to communication. Because a lot of times when we're communicating with people, or communicating, because we're talking about relationship here, we're really communicating from our personal experiences. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Our personal experiences, our knowledge, our understanding, and we're trying to convey all of that to that person, which in turn may not be their personal experience. It may not be their understanding, and it may not be their knowledge. So we have to
Right.
be mindful of that when we're communicating with each other. When we talk about effective communication, we got to make sure that, in a relationship, we're not talking above each other. It doesn't matter how much knowledge, even when it came to communicating with my husband, it didn't matter how much knowledge I knew, or whatever the case may be. The only thing that mattered when me and my husband would communicate with each other is that I was able to bring an understanding of what I'm saying, what I was trying to convey. It was never my knowledge, never my knowledge to demean him, make him feel less than, you know what I'm saying? Make him feel
Right.
like something because he didn't know, or anything like that. But to just, and not be one up you. So, oh, I know more than you. That was never the idea. That was never the goal in communicating with him. My goal was to make sure that we was always on the same level, regardless of what my background experiences was, regardless of what my studies was, regardless of whatever the case. And him likewise with me. He never
Right.
made me feel some kind of way. And so that's part
Right.
of effective communication. And so I put down personal barriers, and our personal barriers can be our selective hearing. Because in communication, we have selective hearing. Sometimes we hear what we want to hear.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
we're only going to respond to what we want to respond to. But that comes
Right.
from our selective hearing, Barbara. What you ever get that thing, you talk to someone, well, I thought you said, no, I didn't say that. No, that's what you wanted me
That's
to
what you
say.
wanted to hear.
No, that's what you wanted me to
Right.
say. But I never said that. So we have to be careful with our selective hearing, personal barriers, our understanding of a thing, how we process it may be different from the other person and how they process it. So in effective communication, it's a matter of tempo, beat when you're communicating effectively, because you have to give each person time to process what is being said. And so I'm getting
Right.
all of this from the videos that you're sending me.
Yes.
The process, give each other time to process so we know how to answer effectively, make sure
Right.
we're hearing everything. And then the third thing, personal barriers, our knowledge is basically what we feel to be true, which may not be, Barbara, what they feel to be true. Because what I think is
Exactly.
right may not be what they think, is true, and would not be what they think is right. So I have to be careful that I'm not in a self-righteous mode. You know what I'm saying? That I'm right, right, right. But effective communication and examining what I'm talking about and what I'm saying, let's process that together. Let's work through that together. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And personal barriers, the last one, knowing how to articulate. Knowing how to articulate, which was between me and my husband. My husband didn't know how to say all the time articulate all the time what he meant to say to me. So a lot
Right.
of times I would have to, like, maybe decode, Barbara. I would have to maybe, like, put things together to try to piece
To get
together
them to
what he was
understand.
what he was saying, to try to get an understanding. But here's the thing, in my processing and trying to piece and decode or put those things together, at the same time, Barbara, I'm still working with him, making sure whatever I'm processing, whatever I'm putting together, that what I'm conveying, making sure whatever I'm putting together is what he's trying to convey to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if okay, here we go. If what he's saying to me and I piece it together and I will recite it back to him, like to say, like, is
Right.
this what you're trying to say? Basically what
Right.
I'm saying. Is
Right.
this what you're trying to say to me? Is this what you're trying to convey to me? And he may say, kind of, but no. I'm like, okay, well, let's continue to problem solve this. Let's continue to, so I can get up from here and I have a clear understanding. So we practice never leaving the table without a clear understanding,
See, and
so.
that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful thing. Because a lot of times, because of the different environments that we come from, we tend to not know how to speak to the other person. Where I came from, uh, a background where I grew up with my father that was well off, and my ex had, they weren't as well to do, and just the environments that we lived in caused us to think different, process things different. So we had to, and we weren't able to master that act of communicating properly, because anytime that I go to speak, it'd be, oh, you talking down to me? No, I'm not talking down. I'm just trying to get you to understand, but we have to find a way to where it's not going to be offensive to the other person. We
Mm-hmm.
have to take to heart what people are saying and how they understand. Because if we communicate it in the wrong manner, it's going to make a person shut down completely, because they feel that you're belittling them or talking down to them because you think you're so much higher than they are. And that's never the case, so we need to learn how to communicate. Not only effective communication to me is the verbal, along with the physical and the tone. The tone has a lot to do with it. When
Right.
I get a little flustered, I get a little loud, and my voice tends to be a little condescending. So I have to remember, now I know, I have to check myself. Okay, Barb, listen to what you're saying, because you might be turning somebody off and making them upset. So yeah, it's a whole thing, and then we also have to remember, Dr. Octavia, those barriers might also be past traumas
Yes.
and triggers that people go through,
Mm-hmm.
and because of those, we don't know how to communicate effectively. So we have to start at the beginning, and I'm always going to go back to collecting that data, getting to know somebody, getting to understand somebody. It goes back to the beginning before we even get to the marriage part. We need to know then. And I'm glad it's hindsight 2020, because we can teach the younger generation what it is they need to look for. I needed this training 32 years ago, but back then nobody was talking about it. So I'm glad where we are today, so that we can convey this information to the younger generation, so that they have those lasting, loving marriages that will withstand the vows in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Yes. And going back to what you was talking about, that is a personal barrier. We was talking about the trauma, especially if you are a person where you grew up maybe in a home, or maybe you was in a relationship or a marriage where you were talked at. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? It's different.
yes,
It's a difference between being talked at and talked to. And so
exactly.
we have to be careful. And like you said, tone, we got to be careful of our tone. You mentioned physical body language, because body language and verbal language are two different things. I
Totally
promise
different.
you it is.
I,
It is
I
two
get it.
different. Matter of fact, we got three different languages going on. We got the tone, because that can be a language by itself, because
All by
you can
itself.
say what you're saying, but guess what we'll say? No, it's how you said it. I know it's how you said it. We'll argue all day about no, it's how you said it. So you got the tone as a
Exactly.
language, you got the body is a language. So you got all different types of languages going on when it comes to communication. And so I really enjoyed this. He sent us our time, but I really enjoyed this. The subject matter relationship, and the topic was art of communication. And what is communication? We know that shared experience, ideas, thoughts, and feelings and opinions. Just to review, effective communication is being able to convey a message, where the person has received it and understood it successfully. The intent of the message that you was trying to convey to the person, they got it. We walk away from the table clear with an understanding. And we talked about unrealistic expectations. And we said, it doesn't mean that it's fully unrealistic. It just may not be realistic at that time.
At that
And
moment.
at that moment. And that's something that we have to recognize, even when it comes to relationship. Because like we said, we can get into relationships, but is love realistic at that time? You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
Is the capacity to give me what I need realistic at that time? Because if
Right.
not, we're just what we're doing. What are we doing here in this relationship? What are we doing here in this marriage? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
If there are certain
Right.
things that you're not able to give one another at that moment, it doesn't mean that it don't happen along down the road, because it can. But just
Hmm.
right now at this moment, I can't give you what you need.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's being
Yeah.
mature enough to say that. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
just can't at this time. So we got to be careful with our expectations, and like you said, and how we go into relationships. And so anyway, I'm taking that one for me.
Listen, I'm taking that
Definitely.
information to my future.
Definitely taking that one, definitely for me, because my next relationship, if it's not love, Barbara, then what are we doing?
What
Because
are
you
we
got to tell
doing?
me you love me before we even move on. Because if not, I don't want to just be in a relationship and you got to build to love me. No, you
No.
either no, that we're not
Either you
building
do
love.
or you don't.
Right. This not build a bear. This not build a relationship. This not that. We're
Look,
not
we've
building
been there,
love.
done that. We're at a point in our lives where we know what we want. So if you
Yes.
want me, if you love me, it's going to be there. It's going to show. So
Right. And if you don't have that capacity of love right now, then just say that. I just don't, and then we can,
part is friends.
part as friends and still be friends. But yes. But anyway, this is our time. We want to
Exciting.
say thank you. I am Barbara for joining us. We're on every other Tuesday, so we won't be on next Tuesday, but we will be on the following Tuesday at 5 p.m. to 5:30 and doing it all over again. Please submit your topics, concerns, discussions, whatever you think. You guys already know. You normally send them to my email or my Facebook message, or you can put it on the page underneath the flyer. However, I will get them. Okay. So
Great.
thank you for joining us in the Marital Toolbox. God bless. Bye
God
bye.
bless you.